All right, I got some breaking news stories for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Dr. Fauci. We have Adam Schiff. We got Liz Cheney. We got to talk about what's happening with DC right now. There's a huge panic there. We also got to talk about a huge update that we just got from the Daniel Penny case in New York City. Obviously, New York City made headlines today because of what happened to healthcare CEO, basically being drawn out in the streets and in front of everybody on camera. So we got to talk about that. But specifically, ladies and gentlemen, panic in DC, Politico, senior Democrats familiar with discussions claim that Biden regime, they're debating and basically they're issuing preemptive pardons for deep state criminals like Fauci, Adam Schiff, and Liz Cheney. They're literally giving a blanket pardon ahead of time to Fauci. This is crazy, a crazy story. They're legitimately Biden is just breaking records of how corrupt somebody can possibly be. Biden White House is preemptive, basically is having discussions of preemptive pardons for those in Trump's crosshairs. Who is in Trump's crosshairs? Who are the people that are not innocent that Trump's going to go after or his administration? Well, President Joe Biden's senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons to a range of current and public officials who could be targeted by President Trump. Trump's return to the White House, according to senior Democrats familiar with the discussions, Biden aides are deeply concerned about the range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments. This is crazy, wild. Can't make this stuff up. Tim Cass was talking about it. Let's take a listen.
I love this, okay? I just want to stress this. Who've committed no crimes, they say. Ladies and gentlemen,
go back real quick. Let's go back. Make sure to smash the like button. Make sure to go smash the like button.
To Trump's critics, as FBI director, has heightened concerns within the president's inner circle. They say Biden's aides are deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments. A sense of alarm, which has only accelerated since Trump's last weekend announced the appointment of Kash Patel, to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics. Yes, but not because they're his critics. He's going to pursue them for being criminals. And it just so happens that criminals don't want to be held accountable, so they criticize the person who wants to hold them accountable. You see how that works, Politico? They go on to add that White House officials are carefully weighing the extraordinary step of handing out blanket pardons to those who've committed no crimes. I love this, okay? I just want to stress this. Who've committed no crimes, they say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like now to give you an example of why you watch this show and why we hate the corporate press and the fake news, the corporate media. They go on to say, those who could face exposure included such members of Congress, January 6th committee, as Senator-elect Adam Schiff. They sat GOP Rep Liz Cheney of Wyoming, former rep. Trump had previously said Cheney should go to jail along with the rest of the unselect committee. Also mentioned by Biden's aides for a pardon is Anthony Fauci, the former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, who became a lightning rod for criticism from the right during the COVID pandemic. Now, let me just stress this. As it says, who've committed no crimes. I want to say it again. Politico says, who've committed no crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Newsweek.com. On their X account from September 9th, 2021, newly released grant proposals indicate the National Institutes of Health funded controversial gain-of-function research appearing to contradict what Dr. Anthony Fauci had said previously.
Wow, they're saying that they committed no crimes, ladies and gentlemen, and that Trump's administration is just going to go after these people because they criticized Donald Trump. Remember, there was an unselect committee that Kash Patel wanted to go after, right? Their unselect committee. And also Anthony Fauci this is a Newsweek article. Look, newly released grant proposals indicate that the National Institute of Health funded controversial gain of function research appearing to contradict what Anthony Fauci has said previously. That's from Newsweek.
Then we have the actual article. And the headline is, Fauci was untruthful to Congress about Wuhan lab research, new documents appear to show. Let me make sure it's really easy for y'all to understand. And I'm not talking about the audience, the core audience, because I love and respect you guys. I'm talking about the corporate press, the Democrats, and the people who seem to just believe all of those lies. I'll make it simple for you guys. From gosar.house.gov. Dr. Fauci testified under oath before the United States Senate that the National Institute of Health had not funded gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, yet a report by Project Veritas proves that Dr. Fauci did in fact fund research in Wuhan, China, and several sites across the United States. Quote, Dr. Anthony Fauci has repeatedly lied to Congress and the American people throughout the entire COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow. Wow. Safeguard. This is all safeguard. Shout out to Tim Pool for talking about this. This is crazy. They're literally trying to pardon him before he could be held accountable for any of this stuff.
Let me then just jump back to Newsweek. Fauci was untruthful to Congress about Wuhan lab research. Can I throw it to the panel here? What is it called when you're under oath and you lie?
Perjury.
And is that a
yes, perjury, bro.
Criminal offense?
Yes.
So that would mean that Fauci did in fact commit a crime.
If the Newsweek, they say it appears to show this. They haven't. It sounds like the Newsweek article hasn't confirmed.
No. Newsweek. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Video of it.
No, Ian, read the headline.
That Fauci was untruthful to Congress about Wuhan lab research. New documents appear to show.
And now I'll give him. I'll give them that. Let's prove it in a court of law. Fine. And that's where they're going. But I will state definitively, as it is stated by a member of Congress as a statement of fact, Fauci lied under oath.
There's also a congressional register. Like everything that's said when they're in hearings, it's all written down and it goes into the congressional register. So he did actually say these things. There's no question about it. He has to be found. Obviously, he has to be brought before a judge and jury to be officially guilty, but there's no question about whether or not he said false statements. Yeah. Those things are, he actually did it. They're in the congressional register.
It was so egregious that Seamus and I actually ad-libbed this comedy bit that he has on his Freedom Tunes channel, where we were talking about, it's this viral video where Rand Paul is saying, Dr. Fauci, did you fund gain-of-function research?
Here we go. I got it all. It's right here. This is the masterful video right here.
Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no
Yes,
answer.
it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Oh,
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent. You confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up as you
I didn't say I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science. And making.
What's crazy about this is that the Biden administration is trying to pardon because they know that he perjured himself. They're trying to pardon him ahead of time because they know that they're about to go after.
Up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. That man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked and he belongs in prison.
Suspend.
Here you are without your mask, where you got to go and enjoy the game and sit right next to people not following the 6 feet of distancing, not wearing your mask, and everyone else was forced to stay home and stop enjoying life. And your science here, your science is displayed perfectly in this picture where children in school were put in plastic bubbles because
what a time, man. What a time that was. 2020 was a crazy time.
Of your science. your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools. And then they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Wow. That was a highlight from congressional hearings. Of course, Biden now, the Biden administration basically coming out and saying that, they're deeply concerned about the range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments in the sense of alarm, which has only accelerated since Trump last weekend announced appointment of Kash Patel to lead the FBI. So now the Biden administration want to give a blanket pardon, and I wonder why. But I think a pardon really is just wild to me. And if they do this, it's just so wild because we're never going to be able to hold people accountable for what happened during 2020. Speaking of 2020, I saw this highlighted video. I got to play this one as well. Before we get to the Daniel Penny news, make sure to smash the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to smash the like button if you guys can. Let's take a listen.
The old saying is who you can't criticize rules over you. Well, we can't criticize the COVID narrative in the way it deserves to be on YouTube. And who owns that? That's Big Pharma. So you can't. Big Pharma has captured the FDA. Big Pharma has captured the CDC. Fauci is a pathological liar and criminally corrupt. That's why he's been able to have that job for 43 years, and he's the highest paid person in government. He makes almost $500,000 a year in government. Do you know how much money that is? That's like 10 grand a week they pay him. That's 40 grand a month.
Remember when the left was concerned about massive multinational corporations like Big Pharma and would call out Big Pharma specifically for, like, I don't know, the fines they've had to pay over the criminal actions they've taken? But now for some reason, you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
What happened?
So people who have
new young people came up in allegiance.
These people who I know all my life, who are supposed to be critical and skeptical of big business and Big Pharma and the military, they have question authority bumper stickers, and then they shame you if you question the authority on COVID. It's like, what is going on? People who still think that we haven't landed on the moon don't want you to question the COVID narrative. It's the craziest thing. I don't know what happened, but everybody I know who were the biggest cynics, comedians, they lost their cynicism. They lost their healthy sense of skepticism about people who we've always known were the biggest corrupt criminals in the world. Tim, you know that. I mean, when I say criminals, I mean, did they put asbestos in baby powder and then sell it to poor people after they got fired? Yes, that's the kind of shit they did. I mean, they put AIDS-tainted stuff in blood.
Can't talk about this too much. Can't talk about this too much on here. But you guys get where I'm going with this. I wanted to bring that article as far as, where we're at and how blanket pardons really does ruin the plans of the FBI, at least Trump's FBI. All right, major update here on the Daniel Penny case. Oh my God, Mayor Eric Adams, just dropped a bomb on the Daniel. Oh, thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate you guys. All right, Mayor Adams just dropped a bomb on the Daniel Penny case. If you've been paying attention to this, then you guys know where I'm going with this. Take a listen.
Can look at that on a multi-faceted approach of everything that's wrong with the system that we're facing. One, look at the photo that they used to show the victims. It seemed like it was a young, innocent child who was brutally murdered, and it gave that impression. When you look at the photo that was being used, it wanted to set up in the minds of people that we were dealing with a young, innocent child that, just a Michael Jackson intimidator that, was just brutally assaulted. Then you look at the complete failure of our mental.
So he's admitting, this is the craziest part. He's admitting that the media started to use Jordan Neely's best pictures before he started going on a, before he started drugging himself up, started attacking people on the trains, started doing some wild stuff in New York City, right? He's basically Mayor Adams. Look, I think he wants a Trump pardon. This is probably why he's becoming so base to a lot of people. I don't buy it for one sense. This is actually how he feels. And I'm glad that he feels that he can finally say what he wants. But Adams is just saying, hey, man, look at the way the media jumped on this case. It was a white young Marine who basically choked somebody out for acting up on the train, acting crazy, choked him out. The guy ended up passing away. And the media said, oh, look, we got one. We have a young white Marine killing a young black man. That was the number one thing that they wanted. And they got it. And that's what Adams is saying is, look, they even started using the kid's best pictures, Jordan Neely's best pictures, when that wasn't who he was throughout that whole time, which led up to what happened on the train. But let's keep listening.
Mental health system,
Right.
A complete failure from the days of closing psychiatric wards and having those who needed help just turned over into the street without giving any safety net to accept them. Parents reach out to me all the time and say, I'm watching my child go down, or my loved one, my family member going down this serious decline. What do we do? A system where you brought people into hospitals, gave them medicine for one day and sent them back. The young man in this case was going within our system, throughout the revolving door of our system. Now we're on the subway where we're hearing someone talking about hurting people, killing people. You have someone on that subway who was responding, doing what we should have done as a city and a state of having a mental health facility. Those passengers were afraid.
Wow. So he's now coming at Alvin Bragg and the DA for not doing anything about any of this. There's a whole bunch of people out in New York City that commit crimes over and over and over that are sick in the head. They need help. Now he's saying we don't even have programs to help people. That's number one. Number two, it's a revolving door, as in they get locked up and they get let go. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy to finally hear the mayor finally say what the truth is about New York City? That's wild.
Hoping that the jury will hear all the facts. Based on all the facts that's laid out, a jury of his peers would make the right decision. And I don't want to prejudge that. I'm just looking at all the facts that are involved here and what we did to get to where we are and what we're seeing, because that could have easily been a case where you saw 3 innocent people murdered on our street of 2 weeks ago. You can look at that.
Crazy turn of events. But it gets worse for Daniel Penny. Here's why it gets worse. Well, we just got footage, and ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for this one. Buckle up for this update right here, because this update is actually crazy. Absolutely insane. Must-watch clip of Daniel Penny's prosecutor, Daphne Yoren. Daphne Yoren, who is the prosecutor on this case. I hope I'm right about that, but that's what everybody's reporting, even credible sources. Watch what she says here. That gives me this is alarming. Take a listen.
So I'm going to give you.
This is the white liberal way of looking at things.
So I'm going to give you an example of something that I did with a recent case of mine, and this has never been done in my office. I had a murder case where the defendant did not intentionally kill the victim. He went into an ATM on the Upper West Side and tried to rob an individual. Unfortunately, it was an older individual. He was 86. And in the course of the robbery, he fell to the ground. And as a result, he died. This is, under the law, a felony murder, which is akin to intentional murder. However, when I first got the case, I learned, I took the time to learn about the defendant. And it was a strong case, so it wasn't about a whodunit. I knew immediately who did it. I could prove it. I could take it to trial that day and win it. But it wasn't about that. It was that the more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
Yeah. So somebody said, I'm not sure whether that's a man or not. I really don't care. All I'm saying is, wow, that is actually pretty insane. That we are now feeling sorry for those. Like if somebody was to do something to my mom, right? Let's just put it that way. Somebody did something to my mom, right? And I want them to go to jail, or they did something to my mom. God forbid, God forbid. I gotta hear about the prosecutor in my mom's case basically say, oh, the person that did something to your mom, I'm starting to feel really sorry for them. I really want to know what got them to that point. Really? That's how I looked at it at first. I was like, if somebody did something to a loved one that I love so very much, and I gotta hear that the prosecutor is out here feeling sorry for the people doing the crimes, yeah, come on. That's crazy.
All right, y'all, I wanted to make a quick video as we are awaiting the verdict for Daniel Penny and remind everybody how we got into this situation. And that has to do with Jordan Neely's extensive criminal past and also the New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg refusing to do his job. So let's not forget that Jordan Neely had 42 prior arrests and at his time of death had a warrant out for attacking a woman on the subway. To give you guys a quick idea of this man's history, he had kidnapped a 7-year-old back in 2015. He had punched a 67-year-old in the face so hard that he fractured her nose and her orbital bone. He also, unprovoked, attacked 2 other men in a similar fashion, breaking one of the victim's nose. These were 2 separate instances. And again, was just overall arrested multiple times. He also exposed himself to a woman on the subway in a different instance. So he had a very extensive criminal history. Even the Department of Homeless Services in New York had Jordan Neely on their top 50 list of people who need help. And keep in mind, this is New York. So if you're making a top 50 list of someone who needs help, you clearly shouldn't be roaming the streets of New York, which leads us to who holds responsibility for what happened on the subway that day, and that is District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Because if Alvin Bragg had potentially put Jordan Neely in jail, he could have gotten the help that he needed. Daniel Penny would not have been put in the situation in which he had to stand up and defend New Yorkers from this erratic and violent man who should never have been on the streets to begin with. So to be quite frank, the only person who should be on trial right now is not Daniel Penny, but Alvin Bragg, who cultivated and created a dangerous environment in which New Yorkers are continuously being harassed, attacked, and even killed on the streets of New York every single day. Now, let's take a peek at this case really quickly. Multiple witnesses came forward and thanked Daniel Penny for the actions that he took that day because, and you even had subway riders who had ridden the subway for decades say that this is the first time where they legitimately felt threatened and that the entire train car filled with people were more terrified than they've ever been because Neely was a legitimate threat. You had a woman who had her 5-year-old son there who thanked Daniel Penny for standing up and restraining Jordan Neely because she was afraid for her son. Okay, so that's what the witnesses on the train that day were stating in this trial. Now let's take a peek at the medical examiner who, by the way, initially stated that Jordan Neely's cause of death was inconclusive. She didn't even get the toxicology report back, but then she decided that he died of asphyxiation after watching the video of Neely's death. Now, in the trial, she stated that she didn't care if Neely had enough fentanyl in his system to kill an elephant, that he would 100% die from asphyxiation. Now, let's take a peek at the prosecution in this case. Now, the female prosecutor coming after Daniel Penny has previously helped murderers get their sentences reduced. Let me give you an example of this. Now, this prosecutor got a felony charge reduced for a man who murdered an elderly Asian after robbing him because she stated, under the guise of restorative justice, that she ended up feeling bad for this robber because he didn't mean to kill the man that he was robbing, and she felt bad that he had gotten to a point in his life where he felt the need to rob someone. She helped him get his sentence reduced. That is who is currently prosecuting Daniel Penny. So again, we have to take a peek at all of the various factors in this case, the people who were actually there that day who had their lives threatened were thanking Daniel Penny, and the bad actors like the district attorney, like this prosecutor and this medical examiner who were not there, who were not having their lives threatened, have only cultivated and created the dangerous environment that led to the instance that led to Jordan Neely's death, quite frankly. If the district attorney did his job, this situation never would have happened. Perhaps Jordan Neely could have gotten the help that he needed, but because the attorneys, the prosecutors, the medical examiners in New York refused to tell the truth, this is what has been created in New York.
Damn. What a breakdown there. That's a very, very good breakdown by Savannah Hernandez there. She works on the front lines. Met her a couple times before. Yeah. Wild situation, wild case. Dr. Fauci news. Just crazy what's going on. But I hope you guys enjoyed this version of the news. We're going to see what happens with the Daniel Penny situation. But I'm really interested to see what happens in New York City as a whole. Because I am about ready to move the hell out of here. I just think that things are just getting out of hand. But, of course, as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know how you guys feel about all of this. Updates that I'm updating you guys with. I will see you guys tomorrow. And, yeah, let's get it.